Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are continuing the post-draft coverage where I talk about every team and what the draft means for their future. And today we are covering the team that I think was the biggest winner of the entire draft. The team that I think did the best of anyone and had the best draft out of anyone, and that's the Philadelphia 76ers. Before I talk about that anymore, though, I want to remind you to leave a like and subscribe. I enjoy all the support that you give me, and it helps me out, and it also helps you out because you get way more basketball content, and that's why you're here, if we're being honest. You love basketball, so leave a like and subscribe. Without further ado, let's talk about Philadelphia. If you haven't watched my pre-draft videos, which I recommend you do, Tyrese Maxey was, in my opinion, the fourth best player in the draft. I know, sounds crazy, but I had it LaMelo Ball, James Wiseman, Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Maxey. So yeah, I think this was a steal for the Philadelphia 76ers at 21. And not only that, I think that Maxey is a perfect fit for them. Or at least a perfect fit for him. This was like the best case scenario for him. Playing alongside Ben Simmons is going to be incredible for Tyrese Maxey. It's going to allow him to focus on being the menace of a defender that he is at the point of attack. He's going to be able to play off of Ben and take advantage of the massive three-point opportunities that Ben creates for him. He's a good shooter, I believe. He's going to space the floor at a competent level, and he's also going to be able to develop an incredible pick-and-roll game with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. I think that his ability to shoot the ball off the bounce is going to be very valuable to this team. His ability to shoot it off catch and shoots is going to be valuable. Like I said, terrific at the point of attack on defense. They now have a lineup that they can run out where it's Tyrese Maxey, Danny Green, Tobias Harris, Ben Simmons, and Joel Embiid. And you have Matisse Thybulle coming off the bench. Those are incredible defensive players. And I think that getting Maxey there was the biggest win that they possibly could have asked for. I'm super high on it. I think I'm going to buy a Maxey Sixers jersey because I absolutely love this guy. I think he's going to make so many teams above them regret this pick. Quite honestly, I would have taken him fourth overall if I were the Chicago Bulls. So that'll tell you just how high I am on Tyrese. I think that this was the perfect guy for the Sixers to get. I think this is a great spot for him to fall. And for that reason, I'm super high on this draft for the Sixers. They also turned their second-round picks, as well as Josh Richardson and Al Horford, into Seth Curry and Danny Green, two players that fit perfect for their roster. Curry offers so much shooting ability. He's going to space the floor incredibly for Simmons and Embiid. He's going to be able to generate some shots as a secondary or tertiary creator on the offensive end of the floor. He's got an underrated floater game. He's really good in the in-between. He's not much of a finisher, but he's a huge add for them. The defensive stuff isn't terrific, but there's enough other lockdown defenders on this team that I think they're going to be okay. Danny Green, another guy who fits this roster perfectly. He can spot up in the corners and shoot threes all day. That's all he's going to be asked to do on offense because there's so many other good offensive players on this team. And on defense, he's going to help improve their wing defense. He's not great on big wings, but he can guard guards very, very well. They now have Tyrese Maxey, Danny Green, and Matisse Thybulle, three guys that are going to be absolute beasts on the defensive end of the floor. Opposing guards are going to have a very difficult time scoring on the Philadelphia 76ers. Ben Simmons can lock up the big wings of the NBA. Joel Embiid is a solid defensive a really good defensive center. Really great rim protector. One of the better shot blockers in the NBA. This team is going to be incredible defensively. I think they'll probably be like a top 5 defense in the NBA. Actually, I will say top 3 defensive team in the NBA. And I also think that they made significant improvements on the offensive end by adding Seth Curry and Danny Green. This team is going to be dangerous next year. I'm looking at Milwaukee. I'm looking at Philadelphia. I'm looking at Brooklyn. The East is going to be stacked at the top. I think that Boston and Toronto are going to have a really hard time making it back to the Eastern Conference Finals. Even Miami is going to have a hard time making it back. Like, these are good teams. These are great teams. I think that I could name 5 teams probably in the Western Conference that would not shock me if they won the title. Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Brooklyn, Miami, and Boston would be the top 5 for me. And all those teams are going to be duking it out all year. This is going to be a great season for basketball, and I can't wait. Overall, the Sixers, I could see a couple different directions they could take their starting lineup. What I would do, my personal opinion, is they should start Tyrese Maxey at the point guard, Danny Green at the shooting guard, Tobias Harris at small forward, Ben Simmons at power forward, and Joel Embiid at center. Ben can still be the primary ball handler, but Tyrese can also take on some of that secondary ball handling role, and he can function really well as a slasher, great guy at attacking closeouts, good spot-up shooter. Obviously, Embiid is going to have the ball in his hands a lot. A lot of possessions are going to be dedicated to him in the pick and roll, and I think that Maxey is going to be able to be a guy who can be solid in the pick and roll with him, at least better than Josh Richardson was. Maxey isn't a great playmaker, but he can make the necessary reads, so I believe that that's going to be a solid combination. Danny Green is going to space the floor and play good defense for them, and Tobias Harris is going to be another floor spacer who can also get you a bucket if he ever needs to. I think that that's a very lethal starting lineup if that's the direction they want to go. Off the bench, you'd have Seth Curry as a guy who's your sixth man, can come off the bench and knock down threes, play 25 to 30 minutes, and really function as a sixth starter, but just provide that injection of energy off the bench with his scoring. You'd also have Shake Milton as a good guard option, fill out that guard rotation really well. Matisse Thybulle, a wing who can play really, really good defense. Furkan Korkmaz, another shooter. And yeah, really where they need to add depth is the center position, but I'll talk about that more in a bit. The alternative starting lineup I could see with this team would be if they didn't want to start Maxey as a rookie, which I think this is probably the route they go in. Maxey comes off the bench, and they start Ben Simmons at the point guard, Seth Curry at the shooting guard, Danny Green at the small forward, Tobias Harris at the power forward, and Joel Embiid at the center. Once again, this lineup is a vast improvement in spacing over the Josh Richardson lineup with Al Horford that we saw in the past. Curry is going to improve the spacing that this team has tenfold. It's going to be tons of room to work with for Ben and Joel. Curry also may be an interesting option in the pick and roll with Joel just because of the way that defenders are going to have to go over screens with Seth. Seth is going to be able to create really nice slips for Joel Embiid rolling to the rim, where he's a terrific rim runner and a great finisher. On the defensive end, Seth Curry is not the defensive player that Tyrese Maxey is, but there's enough other great defenders on this team that it can make up for it. I think the route I would go would be the Maxey route, just so that you can have 4 really good defenders and Tobias Harris, who's about average, on the floor at the same time, while taking a bit of the ball handling role off of Ben Simmons. But really, either option is solid. They have good bench options with Milton, Korkmaz, and Thybulle. They could do to add a third point guard. Bringing back Raul Neto would make some sense as another good defensive option, but I really think that they should look to add a more offensive point guard. Someone like Shabazz Napier would be very intriguing to me on this roster as another guy off the bench who can get you a bucket. The reason why I would probably not bring Neto back is because Tyrese Maxey is a more lethal offensive role than Neto. Neto is a beast at the point of attack defensively, and he does a great job guarding opposing point guards. I think Maxey is going to be able to be very similar to that on the defensive end of the floor while improving the shot-making ability and slashing ability on offense. So I think you should probably go in a different direction if you are Philadelphia at that backup point guard spot. Like I said, Napier would probably be my favorite option for them, but if he's too expensive, you could go for a cheaper guy who isn't really coming into my head right now because this year's point guard class is really, really weak, and there's not even too many minimum type guys that are even rosterable. Maybe, oh, I don't know. Javon Carter could be another interesting idea. Yeah, I don't really know. Won't get too speculative about that. We'll see what happens with the point guard position. The other area of depth they need to improve would be center, since on the wing you've got plenty of wings: Seth Curry, Danny Green, Shake Milton, Matisse Thybulle, Korkmaz, even Zaire Smith, if he can take a step forward, could become a decent option for them in a wing rotation. But they do need to address the big man position. Right now, Embiid is really the only big guy on the roster. So I think that they will look to add a backup center. Two guys that would make a lot of sense to me would be Mason Plumlee and John Henson. Plumlee's a good passing big man, so he would probably be my favorite option for them. He can run the pick and roll and be a nice passer out of the short roll. He's good defensively as a rim protector, not very mobile, but he has enough athleticism that he can switch off a little bit. I think that Plumlee would be a really nice option for them to add as their backup center, and he would be a guy that I would target on a deal slightly above the minimum. Maybe something in the $5 million range would make sense for me when it comes to Mason Plumlee. Overall, I love what the Sixers did in this draft. Getting Tyrese Maxey was one of the best picks of the draft, maybe my favorite pick of the first round. Getting that trade done for Seth Curry was a very good deal for them. He has a longer term contract than Josh Richardson does, with 3 years remaining on it, so he's going to be a fixture on this team for years to come, spacing the floor for Ben and Joel. They gave up Josh Richardson and the 36th pick, which is a bit of a hit since you would rather keep the asset, but it's not completely likely that they would have been able to roster that guy that they took with the 36th pick. And they took the guy who I probably think would have been their favorite target at the 49th pick in Isaiah Joe, I believe it was. So really, really nice draft for the Sixers. I forgot to even talk about Al Horford. They managed to unload the Al Horford contract and bring in Danny Green, while only giving up a future 2025 first-round pick. And while that first-round pick does hurt, you got rid of the big contract, the Al Batross contract, as I've heard some people refer to it. And you bring back Danny Green, who fits your roster well and can really make an impact for you. So overall, I like all the moves the Sixers made. I think Daryl Morey is really, really helping this team come into their own. I love the Maxey draft pick. I'm going to keep saying that. I'm probably going to buy a Maxey jersey, like I said. I think this guy is going to be great. I think he was such an undervalued player in this draft, and I could see him blossoming into like a Donovan Mitchell type player. So great draft for the Sixers. Yeah, I think I covered everything. So leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Leave a comment. Do you agree with me that this was a terrific draft for the Sixers? What starting lineup do you think they should go with? Do you like the option where Maxey's starting, or do you like the option where Seth Curry is starting? Let me know. I think that's it for me. I covered everything I want to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all again very soon.